Hi guys, how's it going? Nintoonist here. You found me, as they say. I'm here with a sort of a different kind of video today, and you can probably tell if you're a longtime viewer of mine that it is a different kind of video because I'm in front of the camera, which is not something I normally do. And it's not because of, I have any self-conscious stuff with how I look or whatever. It's just because I think it's easier to just not, use a webcam for most things unless I'm streaming, just because then I have to, edit the webcam in and whatnot, make sure it's 60 FPS, blah, blah, blah. But I'm here with a different kind of video today. You can probably tell by the title, you already know what I'm talking about, and that is the current state of the Smash community. If you've been living under a rock, which I don't blame you if you have been, considering the COVID pandemic and whatnot, in the Smash community, specifically, my community, the one where I've grown to become a notable caster in my region, in my area, a damn proud one at that, there has been a sort of a Me Too movement going on, in which a lot of people, not just local level people, top players, community figureheads, commentators, blah blah blah, the whole shebang of notable people in the broader scheme of what is currently known as the Smash community, have been outed on cases of sexual harassment, sexual assault, grooming, and statutory rape. I feel like I've been silent on this for a little too long, and by a little too long, I mean the past week, generally, just because I didn't know what to really say, or where to really find the words, or anything like that, or what could I really say that's different than what anybody else said, or would I have been scrutinized for some of my opinions or whatnot. But I'm at the point where, I just... I feel like I need to say what I need to say. I want to make my peace, and frankly, because the Smash community is very, very important to me, and I want to see it prosper in the future, regardless of if I'm involved in it, or what my level of involvement is at that point, if any, if not post-COVID, or whenever tournaments come back. It's important to me, so I can't stand to just sit idly by and just not do anything. So, as somebody who is, I'm not a face in the community in the broader scheme of things, but in my local community I am, because I am a very frequent commentator, so I am literally a face of the scene, because my face is what's put on the cameras to commentate. I wanted to, just talk about a couple things regarding, the current state of the community. I wanted to talk about how we got here, why the Smash community is the way it is, why all these top players and whatnot, all these predators have, found, this grooming field, this disgusting but accurate way to call it, here in the Smash community, how it came to be this way. Some stories I wanted to tell you guys, because I've been in the Smash community for a pretty long time, 5-6 years, not as long compared to a lot of brawlheads and whatnot, but I've met a lot of people, I know a lot of people, I've had a lot of relationships, I've had a lot of friendships, and I think there's some I could contribute to that with my stories. The dangers of idolization, I want to talk about that, because I think idolization of community figures and top players and whatnot is a huge part of how we got here. And lastly, what we can do moving forward. Because we are going to move forward, guys. To preface this video, if we let the Smash community die because we had to ban a lot of sexual predators, what does that say about us? If everything we know and love dies because of just these bad people, what does that say about us? You know what I'm saying? That just says that says to the outside world that all that we were was pretty much a Greyhound bus of a bunch of just sexual predators, and that our community couldn't survive without them. And I'll be goddamned if, we let Smash, be that thing. So, yeah. All of these stories and whatnot happening or coming out at once as a sort of Me Too movement really, initially, it made us, to a lot of us, it seemed really bad. But I'm here to tell you guys, it's a good thing that all these people are being outed. I mean, it's not a new thing that they've been doing these things, that these horrible, heinous things, it's just come to light. So now we know to, ban them from the community and rebuild the community or reform it from the ground up. So if you think it's a bad thing, you gotta be a little bit more introspective. You gotta realize this is a good thing that we're getting rid of all these people. It sucks that they turned out to be terrible people, but what sucks more is to be a victim of those crimes. And I want the Smash community to move forward from this. And I truly do believe it can. Call me an optimist, whatever, but I truly do believe it can from this. And part of the reason I'm making this video is because I want to explain why. So without any further ado, let's just get started with this one, because it's got a couple parts to it. The first part here, why this happens, it can seem a little complicated, but it can be narrowed down to a few things in my honest opinion. So to talk about this, and in my personal opinion, I've been saying this for a while, actually. Not even in regards to just sexual predators, but just, shitty people in general who don't do illegal things, but are just generally trash human beings who think they can get away with things just because they have Twitter followings or whatever. I've always said that, a big part of the reason that a lot of the problems that exist in Smash and don't really exist in other communities as much or other esports or whatever is that Smash Brothers has no governing body, it has no structure as a community, and it has no developer support, meaning we do not have monetary funding from Nintendo, nor really their support for the game being a competitive esport community because they always wanted to sell it as something else. So there's that. And my friends can vouch for this as well. I always thought that if Nintendo was ever to be involved in the Smash community, that it would just weed out the garbage so fast. So fast. To have a professional AAA company, they wouldn't tolerate half the shit that goes down with the Smash community. And, I mean, now they're not going to touch it with a 39.5-foot pole, like they're just going to be with that stick poking back way away, like, no, they're a fighting game community. The thing is, they don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, 39-foot pole, whatever. But I think that if a AAA company like Nintendo were ever to be involved in Smash, that a lot of the shit that people get away with, it wouldn't just get swept under the rug, like they seem to have happened up until now. With a AAA company behind it, they wouldn't stand for that shit. They have people whose job it is to fix these issues. You know what I'm saying? People whose job it is to run investigations into these sexual allegation cases and whatnot. And some other communities, somebody gets accused of these things, they run an investigation, they found out, is the person guilty? Turns out they're guilty, they're banned, and then we move on with our lives. Smash, I feel like everything is run on Twitter, really, but more on that later, I suppose. Fat chance of Nintendo ever really doing anything involved with Smash now. It's going to be a setback, but whatever. We have the Code of Conduct panel, and they do great work. I'm not going to sit here and make a video like trashing on the Code of Conduct panel. They try so hard, and they work so hard to try to create a safer place for these victims of sexual assault and abuse and whatnot. And they do great work, but you gotta be honest with ourselves, guys. We gotta be honest. They are essentially a glorified advisory board for the sole fact alone that TOs can override their bans. Just look at Montreal and welcoming Ally back with open arms and advertising the fact that he was back on stream. You remember that shit a few months ago or last year or whatever when they made a whole big debacle on Montreal Gaming's esports scene or whatever? They made this whole fucking stupid debacle that Ally was back as if it was something the community wanted. And he was back. He was at the major. There was footage and everything. Meanwhile, other people for much lesser offenses were still banned. It's a joke. It's a goddamn joke the way it is, the way it's currently run and whatnot. I appreciate what the Code of Conduct panel is and what they try to do, but the fact that they can't enforce these bans, and frankly, how would they? It's just bad. To ask an anonymous board of people to essentially continue the clearly asinine and garbage cycle, right? Of having all of these, serious issues handled on Twitter, which they don't try to handle it on Twitter, they know that, but that's a joke in itself. It's unrealistic, impractical, and frankly, very ill-advised. So Smash has absolutely zero structure, which creates a sort of egalitarian environment where the most notable people in the community are people who just have a bunch of Twitter followers, which, newsflash, having a bunch of Twitter followers or being good at a video game, it doesn't make you a good person. I can tell you firsthand, I've met a lot of your favorite community figureheads, I've met a lot of your favorite Smash Twitter personalities or whatever. I can tell you firsthand, a lot of them ain't all they're cracked up to be. Some of them are good people, don't get me wrong, they're just people who happen to have those kind of followings. But you're not a good person solely based on that. And because of the fact that Smash has no structure, I feel has created a sort of this male-dominated social hierarchy of, power in the community where it's just sort of a hush-hush kind of deal, when it comes to these serious cases and allegations and whatnot. And there are people in my local scene who have been banned from these too. I'm sure you've heard about, the Ace Attorney cases and whatnot. He's gone, rightfully so, fucking piece of shit. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at. And another big reason that the Smash community is the way it is that in pretty much no other scene or industry besides really the esports world, do you have people in their early 20s to early 30s, really, being straight up peers with a 15-year-old. You know, saying that out loud, I mean, you do hear how wrong that sounds, right? Like, as gross and depressing as it may seem, there are more reasons, besides the obvious, as to why that doesn't really happen in pretty much every other field and industry in the world. And that's because it's just not appropriate. You know, like, I've read these stories of, like, you know, like, minors sleeping over at, like, adults' houses because they're both, like, smashers and whatnot, and, like, these other cases, obviously the grooming cases, which, you know, Ace Attorney is one of those. He was talking to multiple minors trying to get in their pants and shit. As well as, like, the top player figureheads, such as Zero and Nairo and Keitaro and whatnot. You know, besides the big ones, there are cases, you know, that would hit closer to home as well. But the fact is, it's inappropriate to have these kinds of things happen. I feel like with the way Smash has grown, because there's such a lack of structure and we have, like, no governing body or company behind us or anything like that, that it's sort of just created this social hierarchy of, we're all just smashers at the end of the day, you know? We're all just smashers, so we're all equal. And, you know, whatever, seeing each other as equal is one thing, but it's not appropriate for somebody in, like, of an adult of that age to be hanging out with minors. It's just not. I mean, we're gonna be talking about that more a little bit later, but it's just, that's another big issue right there. It's sort of seen as just not a big deal to see, like, adults, like, talking with minors in the community. Like, all of that is sort of just forgotten just because all of our shared love of the game. And it's beautiful that we all have a shared love of the game, but I'm not sure how appropriate it is to, you know, have sleepovers as they've seen. And I've seen some of these in some of these abuse cases and whatnot of elements where there were minors not only involved but also just present in these cases. We'll be talking about more on that later when we talk about after parties and whatnot, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, there's a lot of stuff I want to link you as well. A lot of people who are explaining different viewpoints as me. I've been spending pretty much the last week alone just, like, reading up on these abuse and assault stories and grooming and statutory rape stories and whatnot. Reading and watching, you know, the Smash community, like, respond to these things. And I love seeing that for the most part, Smashers are, or at least, like, you know, the prominent ones are not, you know, just siding with their friends if their friend wound up doing something shady or something heinous. I'm very happy to be seeing that for the most part, but I encourage you, as a viewer, as a member of the Smash community, frankly, I think you owe it to the Smash community. I think you owe it to all the victims as well to listen to their stories. Listen to their abuse stories. Like, read these twit-longers. I know it's tiring, and if it's too much, if it's too overwhelming for you, I completely understand that. It's healthy to back away. Look out for yourself first. But I definitely recommend listening to all these things. Kotaku and Wired actually just released articles about the current state of the Smash community. Coney made a video on his YouTube channel talking about how Smash needs to grow up. I couldn't recommend that anymore. All of this is going to be down in the description, by the way, all of it. What else? I highly recommend Omni's videos on the subject. I couldn't recommend those anymore. Yeah, I mean, but all of that will be linked in the description. We have more to talk about, so moving on. Smash is a community with no structure. I think that's the biggest problem. It's just this sort of, like, egalitarian thing where everything is based on how much clout you have, or, you know, if you're a Twitter, you know, like, how many followers you have, or, you know, like, just your prominence in the scene, I suppose, is pretty much solely based on that. And because we have no governing body, that's where the real power comes in, and then the people who, you know, have all these followers can sometimes get away with these heinous acts. That's why what's happening right now is a good thing. That's why what's happening right now is a good thing, to see these people not get away with it, man. To see what happened with Zero, you know, Zero being this, we all thought he was untouchable or whatever. To see him get exposed, shoutouts to Jisoo for doing that. You're a hero, really. That's a good thing. You gotta realize that's a good thing. I don't give a fuck if Zero was your favorite player. What he did was illegal and inexcusable. You can't make excuses for him just because you like his videos. If that were the case, I'd be doing that with Nairo, but I'm not. So, really, if you're defending people, if you're defending these abusers just because you don't want to see them go, take a good, long, hard look in a mirror. A nice, long, hard look at one. If you can, if you're physically capable of doing that. You might not be. I don't know. You could be blind, or you could just be ugly. Whatever. Point is, that's just fucked up. Like, this happened to people I like too, where they wound up being abusers. I don't stand behind them for that. No. But, my good friend Chriselodian said it best, and that is that he said, the Smash community is basically a modern-day Lord of the Flies, a disastrous attempt at young people governing themselves, except replace the uninhabited island with a fighting game series taken competitive without developer support. that tweet touches on pretty much the whole shebang right there. It touches on everything, It's competitive without developer support. That's why there's no structure, and that's why these people are able to get away with these things that much easier. If you're unfamiliar with Lord of the Flies, it's a book where, like, a bunch of Boy Scouts or whatever, like, their plane crashes and they land on, like, a deserted island, and it's only kids there, so they try to govern themselves, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing because they're kids. That's basically the Smash community to a T. It's like a bunch of young people just trying to govern themselves when they just don't know what the hell they're doing. Even with the Code of Conduct panel, this is as professional or as close as we came to having that kind of governing body. And let's be realistic. It's patchy. It's not a perfect system, and frankly, I think it's one that needs to be reformed as well, because it's something that pretty much just creates all the discourse to happen on Twitter as well, which is just a stupid thing. Smash kind of reminds me of social media as a whole. Like, in my opinion, social media just came out and was released at a time when the human race was just not ready for it. When we just weren't mature enough for it to understand, to come at, strangers on the internet and understand that their opinions are different and respecting each other's opinions. To respect Poe's Law more, where you can't really, understand, the context or the tone of what people are saying, or you can't tell if they're joking when it's in the written form. So everything and the repercussions and whatnot, which I think there's more bad than good when it comes to Twitter and social media, Twitter especially, really. I think there's more bad than good that outweighs those, and I think it came out at a time when we just weren't ready for it. So I think the fact that pretty much all these cases of serious shit, guys, statutory rape and abuse and harassment allegations and whatnot, not even allegations, they're true. They wound up being true because half the time, these people confess to them because they know they have nothing, and then only apologize, when they got caught, which is how you know they're not truly sorry. The fact that it all happens on just a public website like Twitter, it's just dumb. I feel like it's such an immature way to actually handle these things. Another thing my friend Crystalodian said is to just remove Cloud from Smash. I don't know how the fuck we can do that. I'm super down for that. Just having followers isn't always a bad thing. You gotta be mature with it though, but a lot of Smashers just aren't. And that stems into sort of the bigger issue of idolization and whatnot, which is something we'll get onto later. But the point is, like social media, Smash kind of became an esport that, frankly, had no business, none, growing to become as big as it became without developer support or any semblance of structure. And I used to think of that as a miracle, really. With how I used to defend the Smash community and just praise it, for just, helping me grow as a commentator and as a person, because it has helped me grow as a person a lot. But right now, I can understand, and I'm sure a lot of you, I can understand feeling the same way. It feels like a curse. But I'm here to remind you in this video that it isn't, though. It's not a curse. We have to remember that. And it's our job to turn it into the miracle that we all believed it once was at one point. We have the power to make that a reality. And I'm making this video, and I'm hoping others are making their own videos as well. I've been doing nothing but reading these stories and watching videos and whatnot, just all about the Smash community in the past week. About their stories and their cases. I think it's important to absorb this kind of information, so part of the reason I'm making this video is to remind you guys that power and that responsibility, that lies on us. If we really want the Smash community to become a better place, at the end of the day, we can't sit by and watch it happen. We gotta make it happen. In short, Smash is an unregulated, undocumented, grassroots community with no structure, no real governing body, no developer support. We're playing a game that was deliberately designed for children and advertised as a party game competitively that grew into a giant presence in the world of esports, which is already a world that has its own issues with sexual predators and systemic sexism issues, completely intermingling with actual children in an environment unlike any other where they are our peers. 15-year-olds or 12-year-olds, young people are peers with 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Now, if you were a parent, does that sound like the most safe environment for your child to be in? Does that sound like an environment that a pedophile or a sexual predator would try to find their next victim? No and yes to those questions in that same respective order right there. Honestly, to me, when you think about it, with the way that Smash was brought up, just it's this sort of egalitarian environment where, the only structure in the community is based on, whatever your status in the scene, and that we have no governing body to really handle these cases, let alone a universal rule set. It kind of reminds me of child beauty pageants. what are those for, really, besides, like, just being, like, sort of a breeding ground for pedophiles to come out for? It's tacky and disgusting. Now, I don't believe smashers are bad at their core. I don't think they're like the parents who, just don't give a shit about their kids or just parade them out around like little dolls or whatever. But I think parents are responsible for sending their kids to a place that they don't think would necessarily be safe for them, or knowing where their children are. That's important. But at the end of the day, with the way Smash has been brought up, it's just like a magnet to predators when you think about it. And that falls on us. We are the ones who gotta fix that and make it a better place. And more on that later when we cross that bridge later on in the video, because I know we can. I believe that most Smashers are truly good to their core, but we gotta prove that to the world now. Now, I don't see it very often, and I just said, like, I already think that most Smashers are good at their core, but the internet does bring out the worst in some people, and sometimes it also just brings out the worst people. Sometimes it just brings out the worst people in general who come out and say really dumb shit. I know there are people who probably still think there aren't issues in the Smash community, or that there aren't issues with, sexism and, like these predators being outed or whatever, but I have my own stories, man. Of seeing this stuff firsthand. I was at a tournament once with these two women. They were both very good friends of mine. And there was this other guy who was, I'm omitting names here, because I'm not trying to out anybody or anything, and especially the names of the names of the two women, because I don't think they would be comfortable with me telling the story they're telling the story with their names, of course. But apparently the guy was like photogenic or something, emphasis on photogenic, and he just liked to take pictures of people he met at Smash tournaments. He recognized me from commentary, so whatever. I thought that was okay. He kept trying to get pictures with the two women, though. And they were both very, very insistent on not wanting to have their picture taken. It's like, they told him over and over again, and the guy was just so uncomfortably and disgustingly persistent on trying to do that. I remember at one point we were trying to walk away and he offered to hold their purses or some shit as well. He offered to do that, so then I had to wind up holding that for them and whatnot. It got to the point where they said no to him so many times where in the middle of this tournament, literally in the middle of this tournament, I had to turn to the guy, I said his name as loudly as possible, and I said, they said no. I literally had to yell at this guy in like the middle of a Smash tournament to get him to stop. It's like he was that clueless. And Smash, being like a fighting game scene, it's got a lot of socially inept people. A lot of them are really young, they've never spoken to a woman before, and they see that as like, something different, which is another general, societal problem in itself. That's not even just a gaming problem. It's more prominent in gaming communities. Let's be real. A lot of incels out there, a lot of guys who probably never even smelled a woman before in their life. That's another problem in itself. But the fact is, this guy wasn't taking no for an answer to the point where I literally had to scream at him to get him to stop. And I didn't want to have to do that, but I did. And, it's just so stupid that had to go down. So, like, to say that Smash is, like, not a good environment, or to say that Smash is a good environment for women, it's ridiculous, man. And to try to really put it into perspective for you, take me, for instance, take my story. I joined the Smash community formally when I was, like, 19. It was, like, my first year of college, my first semester of college, actually, back in, like, 2014. And, I was watching Apex 2015 online, and I thought it was so cool, and then I think in the fall of next year or whatever is when I actually got involved in Smash. And to tell you guys my story, the first local I went to was a local called Smash Forever, and I saw the commentators sitting behind the desk. And I thought that's where the big boys get to sit behind the desk and do their commentary, and I told it was a dream of mine to get to one day be behind that desk and do it at, a firehouse. Just some local firehouse where this local was. It was my dream to sit behind that desk and, commentate. How prestigious, And eventually I was able to do that because I wanted to be a commentator. I love to be in front of cameras. I have no problem with that. I have no problem speaking in front of people. And I like to be a content creator. I like to, be creative. So the fact that I would get to talk about, something I love in Smash, it was just like a dream come true for me. So eventually I was able to do that, work my way towards that, just meet people, have fun, get to commentate. They gave me a chance, like I was just a wide-eyed kid coming to those Smash tournaments. I was 19, but I was still a kid basically, no one's really that mature at 19, at least, not completely, but I was so happy to be able to get to do that. And I'm sure a lot of other people probably feel the same. They probably, have dreamed about being commentators. I've had a lot of people tell me that they look up to me as a commentator, and they've told me that they base their commentary style off of mine. And that's amazing. That's the dream. That's so amazing to me that, like, there are people who, look up to me in that kind of way, not necessarily in an idolization kind of way, like, oh, he can do no wrong. We'll talk about that in a bit. But just in a way that, like, they looked up to me like that. And I'm not trying to make this about myself. I know it seems like I'm talking about myself a lot here. That's not what the video is about. That's not what I'm trying to make it about. But with everything I just said about my journey as a Smash commentator, to the point where I eventually grew to be one of the most notable commentators in the tri-state area, is just imagine if I was a woman. Imagine if instead of me just being able to go into that tournament, the people there giving me a chance to commentate behind that desk at the Smash Forever venue. Imagine them not giving me that chance because I was a woman, and they saw me differently because of that. They immediately started sexualizing me instead, or I have to deal with a toxic Twitch chat all of a sudden that no matter how good of a commentator I was, they'll shit on me because they don't like my voice or something because I'm a woman or whatever, or they like it's too shrill or whatever, or they'll say shit about like me emotionally. Any stereotype that you can think of when it comes to women. The fact is, it's like, even when I was like, writing some of the notes I had for this video, I was listening to Smash music, and it made me feel so happy. It made me feel so inspired. Like to hear somebody else's like, true work of creativity and like have that unleash that sort of creative spirit and soul in you as well. That's what creativity and, art really is all about at the end of the day, inspiring others. And imagine if people just wouldn't care for that for you, or they wouldn't take you seriously because you're a woman, Vicky, she gets so much shit for being a commentator. She's an amazing commentator, and she just gets crapped on for it just because, whatever, she's got a pair of breasts or whatever. It's just, I feel like I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but you guys get the gist of what I'm trying to say. That I could have been a woman. I could have been a woman who heard that song, fell in love with it, got inspired, fell in love with competitive Smash, and then wanted to come into the competitive scene to really give them that same love, that the scene gave to you initially. Only to be greeted with, like, abuse and harassment and cyberbullying and whatnot. It was so easy for me, like, to get involved with Smash and to grow as a commentator. It is not that easy for women. And I think my story with the two women with the guy who just wouldn't stop trying to take photos of them and whatnot, I think that kind of proves that in itself, that it's just a different environment for them. Like, Smashers literally go on Twitter and they wonder why there aren't more women in the scene. It's like, this is why, dude. They don't feel comfortable there. Like, I dated somebody in the Smash community for a year, and she has her own horror stories of, like, guys trying, like, hugging her after a set or something like that, and it's just so cringy. You know what I mean? Like, there's that, and, like, these other horror stories, she's told me and whatnot over, for the last few years, really, that I've known her. It's just not right. So to really, like, the reason I'm saying all this is because I'm trying to get you to understand. We all have our own journeys in Smash. We all fall in love with it. We're all in the community, because we fell in love with the game at one point and we want to do something for it. Whether we're a commentator or a top player or a player or an organizer, whatever. Honestly, whatever. And women have a much, much harder time trying to get to that place. They feel those same emotions of love for the game that you do, that you did when you were a new player in the Smash community. But they don't stick around because they don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable. And that's on us. We failed them. We failed them. I say all that because I want you to understand they have those same emotions that you do. Just imagine having all of that love that you had for the game, all those hopes that you had for, like, branching out of your comfort zone and joining a new community of people that would welcome you, just completely shunned or put aside because they only see you as a sexual, like, conquest, or they, like, are a victim of abuse or whatever. It's not fair. So to say that women don't have a harder time, growing in the Smash community, I don't know what else to say to that. There's so much evidence otherwise. And frankly, if you don't understand, Or if you don't initially understand, that's fine. But if you take a good, long, hard look at yourself and you still don't understand why women would feel uncomfortable at these things, knowing that they had that same love for the game that you had, that same desire and passion to, that same jump in their lives where they broke through their comfort zone to join a community of people that would welcome them, only to be greeted with abuse. If that doesn't convince you, that they have a harder time and that we're all the same, people with our love for the game at the end of the day, I really don't know what will. You honestly need to grow up. I have another story to tell you guys here to essentially segue into the next part of this video, and that is idolization. People have been talking about this recently in the Smash community. A lot of other people have brought up this point as well, and it's something that I wholeheartedly agree with. We have a problem in the Smash community of over-idolization of figureheads in the community, whether they're top players, commentators, Twitter personalities, whatever the fuck. I think that's a genuine problem in the Smash community. So I'm going to use this next story to try to amplify that point. I was at SmashCon last year, and I try to make a point of going to SmashCon every year. Obviously not this year because of the pandemic, of course. But if there's one major you can go to, definitely go to SmashCon. I was on stream. They put me on stream at SmashCon in my match, and it was winners round 3 or whatever. I lost to my opponent, GG's, whatever. So I got off, I was just happy to, play my match and have fun or whatever. And this kid runs up to me, and he says, with the biggest smile, right, wide-eyed smile on his face. Not like a necessarily wholesome smile, like sort of like, and this is the reason I'm talking to you smile. He runs up to me and he says, "Yo, Nintoonist, where's Introspective, man?" I don't fucking know. Like, the thing is, this kid, God bless him, he just assumed that because I was a Smash YouTuber who made popular top 10 lists and videos for Smash Brothers, competitive Smash Brothers specifically, that I knew Introspective personally. And that, I feel like, is a shining example of the problems in this community with over-idolization, or just idolization in general, really. That's kind of a big part, in my opinion, of the overall greater problem of the lack of structure in the Smash community and the lack of a safe space for victims. To so many members of the community, we're just names. They're just names in the community, and we're all just players in a play to them. That our lives are just not even me. I'm not even a big Smash personality or anything. People know me locally, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Top players and Smash personalities or whatever. It's to them, it's just Twitter is they're like players in a play to them. And people, because of that, sort of segued their minds into treating these stories of real sexual abuse and harassment and assault and grooming and statutory rape as just entertainment to them. It's just drama to them, which sickens me. If you think what's happening right now is just drama for you, I don't know what to say. You really just need to grow the fuck up if that's what you think, because these are people's actual lives. These are real traumas that they're going through. You can't treat it as a joke. And frankly, I just think this kid, assuming that, I knew Introspective and that we all have these, freaking Illuminati level, boardroom meetings between all these Smash YouTubers, and that we all know each other and that we're all better than you and put on this pedestal above you. I think that is just as shining of an example of the problems with over-idolization in this community. People are put on pedestals for whatever reason, whether you are a commentator or a top player or just a Twitter personality or whatever the fuck it is that you do for the Smash community. We're over-glorified. And I was never even the biggest YouTuber, really. But at both Smash Cons that I went to, which was Smash Con 2018 and 2019, I got stopped 6 times. I'm not even 6 times. I was just walking around the con throughout the stretch of the weekend, and people just recognized me from my videos or, from just commentary or whatever. And I was always flattered by that. I always took it I was always so flattered by that people actually knew me from someplace else like that. It made me feel accomplished. It made me feel like I had done something good for the community. It made me feel like I had done something great for myself. you know? So I always took pictures with them and whatnot, you know, like if they were comfortable with that. I always loved to take pics with fans and whatnot. And then like if they wanted, you know, like I could put it on Twitter and whatnot, which they were usually cool with, which I'm probably not going to do that anymore, you know, because it's probably not the most appropriate thing, especially if they are underage. But yeah, I always took that personally. I always like wanted to give my fans a selfie and whatnot, which I thought was cool, you know? But I'm realizing now, in the greater scheme of things, it's more problematic than I initially realized. You know, just these over-idolization of top players. It's like they get put on pedestals where there's like a point where they could do no wrong. And Leffen said it best. I definitely recommend checking out Leffen's video. I'll put that in the description as well. He said, "We are top players. We're not your friends. You know, we're not your friends or anything like that. It's like, we're not top people. Just because we're good at a video game, that doesn't mean we can do no wrong or anything like that." And he's completely right. It's like these people are just put on pedestals. I know people, personally, in like the tri-state scene or whatnot, or just even outside the tri-state scene, of people that are just so overly glorified, they get put on pedestals, and then they act like they can do no wrong. And then what happens is that they have this whole hive mind sheep followers of people who will either willfully be ignorant and just refuse to believe that they did something wrong and then mercilessly defend them, like Zero's followers, pretty much. Or they'll just be in such shock that they just won't even believe it, you know? Or they'll like go after like the victim who, you know, accused them, rightfully so, of sexual assault. It happened to Jisoo. Look at what happened to her. She outed Zero, and the fucking Zero stans like lost their mind, got in a tizzy, even after Zero confessed. Even after he fucking confessed, they were still defending him. It's like this over-idolization creates just like this hive mind internet culture where the internet mob tries so hard to control the narrative and literally mess with people's actual lives. These are serious cases of sexual assault, and these people either treat it like a joke, or they take it like they're such fanatics and they take it so seriously that they'll defend, you know, they'll defend the abuser because it's their favorite YouTuber or some shit, you know? It's like, it's disgusting, honestly. It's why I hate that these issues in the Smash community, it's like it's all done on Twitter. This horrible, limited means of communication where pretty much every actual serious issue in the Smash community becomes like a public spectacle. Now, I come from a region of wonderful tournament organizers who have already created tip lines, anonymous tip lines, where victims can report cases or misconduct of their own, you know, cases of sexual misconduct and whatnot anonymously. They took that step immediately last week, and I know they're working on even more behind the scenes right now. I love Tri-State, man. Do or fucking die state, man. I love my region so much that we have such amazing, competent TOs. Other regions, I don't know if they'll have something as great. Well, we're gonna have to work towards that. But the fact is, like, that's how it should be. You know, victims should be able to do what they want when it comes to their stories, but then there are some who are forced to tell them earlier for whatever reasons, and then it just becomes a fucking spectacle. Everything in the fucking community now just becomes a goddamn Twitter spectacle. You know, like, I wouldn't want my personal relationships and whatnot to be put out there, you know, like on Twitter and whatnot. You know, I mean, last year, I dated somebody who was 10 years older than me. And yes, that's a stark age difference, but I've known many couples who had that age difference and were fine. And the most important part is that in that relationship, we were two consenting adults. We were both well of age at that point. It wasn't like I was a teenager and she was an adult, like in the Senpai case, which, by the way, almost made me vomit when I saw that video of her walking up and, like, you know, touching Pape after he got that win. Most of the cases left me kind of numb, but that one, legit, I almost barfed on my keyboard. Point is, I wouldn't want my personal business out there like that, but everything in the Smash community becomes like a fucking spectacle at this point, and then people treat it like a joke. That's what happens when, like, everything in, you know, a competitive gaming community that is supposed to take itself seriously as an actual legitimate esport, when everything, serious issues are handled publicly and on a public platform where everybody, no matter how stupid or hive-minded they are, or immature emotionally, mentally, or physically otherwise, can chime in. It's stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's a good thing, you know, to have social media, you know, for the victims to come out and, you know, out their predators. That's a good thing. You know, like, I'm a little biased here because I'm not the biggest fan of Twitter in general. I I think social media has done more harm on society than good, a lot more harm on society than good, and I think it came out at a time when we as a society were just not ready for it. But the fact that it exists is as an actual platform for these victims to come out about their stories, that's a wonderful thing. I can't hate on Twitter for that. I can't shit on Twitter for that. You know what I mean? Like, this movement is good. If you think what's happening now is bad, it's not bad. You know, it's a good thing that all these people are being outed. You know, if you think it's a bad thing because your favorite top player is getting outed or whatnot, you need to think about what actually matters. And you need to think about the victims and what you would feel like in that case if you were a victim of sexual assault. I'm not free of idolization myself. And to put this in perspective for you guys, I've been pretty much numb to every bit of bad news because of how bad my year has gone and just how bad 2020 has been for everybody. Like, no shit. If COVID, like, if I saw, like, some news that there was some village in, like, Somalia or whatever where COVID started mutating people into literal Hollywood zombies, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not exaggerating when I say I would not be surprised at all. I'm essentially, for the most part, like, completely desensitized to bad and shitty news and whatnot. Nothing shocks me anymore. But when the story about Nairo came out, that one hit home. That one hit home really hard because I did idolize him. I have to admit that. I watched him every day. He was my favorite streamer. He was my favorite YouTuber. He was my favorite player. He was like literally my favorite Smash everything. So when that story came out, I was devastated. I was really upset about that one. A lot of the other ones, with the exception of, like I said earlier, probably the Senpai one, it's not that I wasn't caring for them. I've been doing nothing in the last week besides just reading about all these stories and just educating myself to see how much I can do for the victims. I was numb to them. That's because I don't put these people on pedestals. You know, so many people put these people on pedestals, and then it makes it hurt that much more when they do something really deeply wrong. And, you know, and these cases of sexual assault, these are the big ones, you know. That's a big thing to do wrong. That's a conscious decision to sleep with a minor. That's not a mistake. You know better than that to be doing that kind of stuff like that. But I'm not an immature idiot. I'm not going around defending Nairo, saying, oh, this sucks, he got outed, my favorite player, I can't watch him. It fucking sucks for the victim. That's who it sucks for. Imagine watching these people get put on pedestals and idolized and praised as top players every fucking day, and you, as the victim of their crime, you're the one who knows what they really did. You're the one who knows what they really are. Imagine being the only person who knows that. It's gotta feel fucking awful, man. I don't care how much the Nairo case hit home for me. What he did was horrible and illegal, and he needs to suffer the consequences for it. But to conclude this section here, I hope you understand the dangers of, like, idolizing people. It's not even, like, really just a case of not, like, oh, don't meet your heroes and everything. I just want you to know we're all human. At the end of the day, I mean, I've had a lot of people look up to me for my commentary. I've had a lot of people tell me they look up to me as a person, and I'm flattered, and that's great. It's good to have people to look up to. That's a great thing. It's not a good thing to put them so high and mighty that you deliberately ignore the bad shit that they do. Or you're just willfully ignorant to it, or just ignorant to it. That's not a good thing. That's over-idolization. I'm not in denial about Nairo. When the Nairo story came out, there was the evidence, there was the receipts, and a victim came out about their story of abuse. And I believed him, because I believe victims. Despite how much I loved Nairo, despite everything he meant to me and how much he inspired me as a content creator and a player and whatnot, I'm not going to lie to myself, you know? People who want so badly to believe that somebody is the person that, like, they think they are, the person they want them to be, and, like, a good person when sometimes they aren't. Look, I don't give a fuck who you are. You do not actually fucking know somebody because you follow them on fucking Twitter. That is not how life works. You do not actually know this person. You know nothing about this person. Nothing. You don't know your favorite Smash Twitter personality. You don't know your favorite top player. You don't know your favorite commentator. You don't know your favorite YouTuber. We're entertainers. We are entertainers for you. We're not your direct friends. And it sucks to say that sometimes, but the fact of the matter is, people in my profession and more get put on pedestals. And then they think we can just do no wrong. Leffen said it best. He's a top player, not a top person. Everybody has done shitty things in their life. In the case of like the sexual assault stories, some people have done things way shittier than others, but nobody's perfect. You know, we're not like these invincible, like invulnerable people, man. You don't know me. You're gonna look at me and just tell me that because I'm your favorite YouTuber or your favorite commentator that I've never done anything wrong in my life? Nobody who's ever done nothing wrong in their life is ever successful in anything. You grow from your mistakes. You learn from them. But over-idolization is dangerous. I think it's a big reason. I think the reason it happens so much is because these people who have these followings, you know, wind up really essentially running the community because we have no real structure. And, you know, things like clout and Twitter followings are seen as so much more important than they are. You know? Like, if Nintendo was involved with the scene, you know, they wouldn't matter. If they fucking did something, you know, a professional organization, done. Clean that shit up. But that doesn't happen here. Because, you know, people and like their notoriety and their status is more important than anything else. I'll tell you something, man. Smash feels so much more cliquey than it did when I first joined. Maybe I was just less mature back then and I just didn't see it or whatever. Maybe I didn't have as many friends. I don't know. That's just the way it seems to me. But the point is, over-idolization and idolization is a dangerous thing. I explained to you why it happens, and I hope I did a good job in this section explaining to you why it shouldn't happen. It's okay to look up to people. That's a good thing. But don't think that they can do no wrong. Because a lot of times I've met a lot of your favorite Smash personalities. Met them in person. They're just people. They're just people who are good at a video game. They're just people who are good at, you know, garnering followers or whatever on like social media. They're just people at the end of the day. You gotta understand that. Finally, I'd like to talk about what to do going forward, because the Smash community is not gonna die, guys. If we let the Smash community die because, you know, these people, you know, we had like sexual predators outed from the community, all that says to the outside world, and we have national attention now, all that says to them is that we couldn't thrive without these people. That we're a community of just sexual predators. We're a community of people who just don't give a shit about kids getting touched. Or women getting touched. And I refuse to believe that's who we are. So, in terms of moving forward in the Smash community, I am not a tournament organizer. I have never wanted to be a tournament organizer. I never have been, really. But, there were several ideas that have been floated around, you know, on Twitter or whatever, whatnot, you know, where pretty much every bit of discourse happens. And there are some I support and some I don't, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well, because I want to engage these conversations with people. So let's talk about some of those a little bit. Chaperones required for minors. I support that idea, because think about it. I mean, when kids go on field trips, you know, in their schools or whatever, they need like a permission slip from their parents, right? Why do we never do that in the esports world? Why does that never happen? Why are, you know, little kids, you know, allowed to go into these environments that are, you know, essentially have more party culture to them than they think? I mean, I was at Smash and Splash, dude. That's literally a party major. And I understand that's different because it's at a hotel where people wouldn't force that. But a lot of these other Smash tournaments, people bring their own stuff. People have their own parties. It's like, it's not always the most appropriate environment for a child. And, you know, when these things happen, they intermingle, and, you know, a lot of emotionally immature adults, which, by the way, if you're an emotionally immature adult and you're using you know, like the noise of what's happening now in the Smash community to write twitlongers about petty high school drama shit that has nothing to do with sexual abuse or assault or any, like, actual traumatizing stories, you're a fucking loser. I'm just gonna come out and say that right now. Don't be doing that shit. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. But with the chaperones required for minors, I think that's good. I think if minors want to go to these things, I think the tournament organizers should have somebody like there's somebody who should be with the child who should maybe sign a form or something like that to say that they're allowed to be there or whatever, or just sign some form that they're like some form of legal guardian for them, whether it's their parent or legal guardian, and actually have proof that they are. It sounds like it could be a little bit of a hassle for tournament organizers, but I don't think we got to think about hassles right now. I think we got to think about what we actually have to do. I think that might be a good one, to have actual, responsible adults there, just supporting, to support their kids or whatnot. I've seen kids at majors or not even just majors, at locals, where their parents were there. Their parent was probably bored out of their minds, but their parent probably wanted to be there because they know the real dangers of the world that, we as kids might have not listened to when we were their age. So I think I support that idea. I think that one's I think that's a good one, for sure. I would love to discuss it more with people. Different colored wristbands for minors and adults at tournaments. For the most part, I like this idea too. I think it could be good in theory. I think it could be good to so organizers and whatnot can keep a close eye on the people who are minors and whatnot to see if there's any adult who's talking to them shadily or whatnot. They don't have to think, oh, this person looks young. Is that appropriate, what's going on over there? No, now they'll know because they'll have those wristbands. And then we don't let people in unless they're wearing the wristbands or they put them on. They've done that at majors before, but they never did it for locals, or they never separated them for minors and adults. For the most part, I think that's a good idea, but I'm a little wary of it because then a potential predator would be able to spot a minor that much easier. So it's sort of like the same case in New Jersey where if you were 16 years old and you had a learner's permit driving, you had to put a red sticker on your car. A lot of people were against that idea, rightfully so. So to be honest, I'm not completely sure about that one. Separating brackets and events into major and minor divisions. The Pokemon route, basically. Sounds good on paper, but it may have more flaws than pros. I don't know. The Pokemon community actually did this, and in the same venue, they just have separate brackets for, adults and minors. Sounds good on paper, but I'm not really sure. Because, first off, I've seen a lot of young people who are below the age of 18, say they would quit if that doesn't happen. I remember notably Spargo went on Twitter saying if that tournaments just got divided between those two, that they would just straight up not play anymore. And you kind of can't blame them for that. Because it's not fair. Yeah, because the adults in the community don't know how to govern themselves or, not, commit these horrible, heinous acts of misconduct that, the kids have to suffer now, and that they can't, compete, with the big boys or the same level of competition to improve themselves as players. Just because adults wouldn't be able to control themselves. I feel like that doesn't really solve the core issue there. I feel like, once again, that would put the minors on sort of these public pedestals and where they would get to be more known, and then predators would get to know them more easily. I don't know so much about that. But the point is, I feel like it's not fair to a lot of minors who just want to have the same level of competition as everybody else. Think about MK Leo. Would he be as good as he is now if he didn't get to compete against, freaking, all the big players who were over 18? No, probably not. And while that's probably not as important as, just an actual measure of safety in the community to create, to keep just to keep the adults separate from the minors in that way, well, that's probably not as important. At the end of the day, it's also not fair because the kids didn't do anything, and now they're the ones who don't get to have that same, level of competition or, and stuff. It's I'm not completely sure about that one because I not only think it's not really fair to the kids, I feel like it might not do as much. I feel like separating the divisions between adults and minors might just sort of, make it easier to find minors for predators. I don't know, though, because an adult in that community, would just stick out like a sore thumb. They'd be like, why is this person here? You know what I mean? So it could work. To be honest, I'm not sure about that one. I got to study what the Pokemon community has done more because I'm really not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm very torn on that one. Banning alcohol at tournaments. Maybe. I'm not sure how effective this one would be either because people would bring their own stuff. For this one to really work, if we banned alcohol, we would literally have to have people have their bottles sniffed or whatever when they come into the venue because people carry their own bottles. I'm not going to go to a major and pay freaking $5 for water. Some shit I'm at a movie theater or something. Get off me with that. But yeah, I carry around where I don't even have it with me. It's a stainless steel bottle. What would be to stop somebody from just putting vodka in there or some shit, I'm not really sure if that would work. But banning alcohol at tournaments, maybe. I'm kind of for that because, when at these actual tournaments or at their venues, these after parties and shit, a lot of these adults share the alcohol with kids. They just don't care. It's just a casual thing that happens. And if you haven't watched Coney's video yet, Coney, who has been in the scene way longer than I have, he made a wonderful video about how Smash needs to grow up, including a lot of stories where, adults are just, giving alcohol to kids, which is no good. So banning them at tournaments, maybe. I'm not even sure if that would really work either, because a lot of the times these after parties and whatnot, they happen at the hotels. So, they'd be banned at the actual venues, which I'm pretty sure at a lot of major venues they are already. So, it would be more so on the hotels, like banning them at the hotels or something. I'm not really sure. I mean, I go to a lot of tournaments and there are like a bunch of people, there's always people with weed there and whatnot. They're like smoking outside, they'll have that shit on them. And, not necessarily the same thing as alcohol, of course, but at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about like sharing it with minors as well. I'm not really sure if that would really work. I mean, America made alcohol completely illegal at one point, and I'm pretty sure everybody just drank more than ever. So, truth be told, I'm not really sure how effective an alcohol ban would be, really. I'm starting to think it might be less effective than anything else. I'd be down for it. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're banned at majors and whatnot anyway, but like, yeah, that whole environment of sharing alcohol with minors, that needs to stop. Coney said it best in his video where like a lot of these community figureheads, like because Smash, grew to become such a big esport without having developer support or a structure, these top players became community figureheads whether they wanted to or not, or whether they were ready to or not. And because of that, a lot of them just weren't emotionally or frankly just straight up mature enough to know right from wrong. Look at Ally. He became a community figurehead, without probably even wanting to, and he statutorily raped a child. Same with Nairo. So it's like, I'm not really sure what the alcohol thing would do. I feel like, it's more so on us to just be better people and to just be more responsible adults rather than just banning it in general. I feel like it's sort of similar with like, it's sort of similar with dogs. There was a case in Toronto once where like a pit bull or whatever attacked a child, and what happened without, like, in Toronto or whatever city it was, they just banned the breed of dog. You weren't allowed to have that kind of dog, a pit bull there or whatever. And they didn't do any research into the actual case. It turned out the dog came from an abusive home, from a guy who was, like, beating his girlfriend and shit, from a guy who was ordered to muzzle his dog from the city, never did. It's like it came from the home. They never investigated the actual case. Rather, they thought it was easier to just ban the breed of dog. And I kind of fear a similar thing might happen with alcohol at tournaments, where we just do that, ban alcohol because we can't be responsible with it, whatever, and then it just doesn't do anything. I don't know. I really don't think alcohol being banned would really do too much, because I'm pretty sure it's banned at majors anyway, but whatever. Making after parties 18 or older or cutting them altogether, we need to do this. Need to. Absolutely need to. I don't know how many of those parties were 18 plus anyway. I don't know. When I was sort of new to the Smash community, you can call me an antisocial nerd if you would. Or, no, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm definitely, I guess, a little bit more of an introvert in that regard. But I was at Shine 2017, and I didn't wind up going to the after party. I went to sleep. And, some girl, like I was in my pajamas in the room, and some girl saw that I was in my pajamas, and she got all snarky with me. She's like, "Wow, are you really going to bed?" And I just like, fucking asshole, let me do what I want. Like, I'm not a major. I paid for the hotel. Let me do what I fucking want. But yeah, that's a horribly embarrassing story aside. I think we absolutely need to do this if we haven't done it already. None of that teenage shit where, 13 or older or whatever. No, if we're gonna have after parties at majors, make them 18 or older. Because I'm telling you right now, if you have after parties at majors, and they're gonna be, sort of for everybody, where alcohol is banned and, children are allowed as well, Smashers are going to bring alcohol. There's going to be fuckers who are still going to do it, and besides, throwing those guys out, I'm not sure what else we could really do. So I think we either make them 18 plus deliberately and then enforce that. Have, fucking ID at the door or some shit. Have people turned away if they look too young. Maybe, I don't know, that one might be rude. I've met people in their 30s who look like they're, freaking teenagers. And, I don't know. Or maybe cutting them all together. I think we might need to do this, because I don't think Smashers are just mature enough to have that sort of party atmosphere. And I know that sounds hypocritical because I said it might be silly to ban alcohol at tournaments when we should just fix ourselves as people. That's really the true underlying issue. But I feel like what happened, I feel like a lot of these, cases and whatnot of these sexual acts really start at the after parties and whatnot, or at these like sort of hotel room after parties. But the thing is, even if that were the optimal thing to do, and just banning those, how do we enforce that? Those things aren't even at, the actual majors anymore. A lot of the times they're at the hotels where people are staying at for the majors, which sometimes those are one and the same. Sometimes they aren't, though. I legitimately don't know how we can even enforce this happening. You know what I mean? This one's kind of hard. I think we still need to do one or the other. I think we need to make after parties 18 plus if we're still going to have after parties, or we should just cut them all together, one or the other. Whichever one is more enforceable, I don't really know. But I think one of those things has to happen, because too often at ththese things, minors get in, they start drinking, nobody gives a shit. The adults just give them alcohol because there's some sort of like underlying aura, where we're all smashers and like we're all peers at the end of the day. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there's a reason. There's a damn reason why in other communities, adults are not peers with 15-year-olds. There's a reason that doesn't happen. And lastly here, if we have all the facts, I think we may need to do more. And by that, I mean we should maybe report these cases to the proper authorities when these things happen. I see too many people on Twitter who would say a ban is too much, or this person got banned for too long, blah, 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 blah. Not even realizing for a goddamn minute how lucky people like Senpai and Anti and Keitaro and D1, how lucky they are to not be in fucking jail. Because that's where they should be. They should be in prison. They committed a felony. They had sex with minors. In the real world, you go to big boy jail for that. Not getting banned from a fucking fighting game community. That's the last thing that they should be worried about if they get caught doing this heinous shit. It pisses me off so much when people think like, oh, like, this person got banned for too long, or the fucking free Hyuga hashtag. Holy shit. Do people not realize how lucky Hyuga is to not be in jail? They don't fucking realize that. Like, all these predators, and we know this for a fact because Anti-Zero and Nairo are in like a group chat together talking about these things, especially Anti claiming it was a witch hunt against him, not taking any accountability for the fact that he had sex with a 15-year-old, tried to victimize himself into him looking like the victim by having it be a witch hunt or some shit. But it's the same shit fucking Donald Trump does. It's like predators, they're so lucky to just be off scot-free and only get banned from Smash and lose their sponsors and shit when these things happen. They're lucky to... I fucking hit my mic. They're lucky to not be in jail. Honestly, I think maybe the community just keeps trying to fully handle things that are too big for their britches. Look at the Code of Conduct panel. Like I said, they're pretty much like a glorified advisory board. So they can only like advise bans, and they'll say, this person's banned for life. And then individual TOs can just add them back. And most TOs just do comply with the Code of Conduct panel, so it can be an effective way of doing things, but in actuality, it's not. I think maybe the community just keeps trying to handle things that are just too big for their britches, and that maybe when these severe cases happen, it should be on the community leaders and tournament organizers to report these cases to the proper authorities. Think about it. I mean, like on a field trip or some shit, would you expect you'd expect a teacher to try to to report, cases of misdemeanors among other teachers if they were harassing a child, right? Like if they find out one of their peers, like one of their co-teachers or whatever, is like harassing a kid. The first thing that comes to your mind that they should report that teacher? Probably yes, right? So why is the first thing that comes to our minds not to report these people? Senpai should be in prison. She fucked a minor when he was 14. And she hasn't even made a statement. She hasn't even made a statement on what's happened. So, like, people, you gotta realize these people are getting off scot-free when it comes to the serious, heinous shit that they've done. Their bans are not too long. Their bans should be longer, as far as I'm concerned, for most of these cases. I honestly think that it should fall on the community leaders or the tournament organizers, and I want to call on them. And I know how thankless of a job it is to be a TO. I think it should fall on them, or just community leaders, to report these cases to the proper authorities when we know for a fact that they've happened. This doesn't solve anything with the environment. This doesn't solve anything with the environment where these cases happen in the first place. Like, this isn't a preventative measure. More so, it's like a reactionary one. And I wholeheartedly agree that we need to find ways in this community to be more preventative for these issues than just reactionary. Because up to now, we've just been reactionary. These cases happen. The person winds up being guilty or not guilty. And we don't even know if that's the truth half the time because these fucking court cases are like solved on Twitter. And then the person is banned or not banned. We can't go on doing that. That's the way Smash has been for so long. And Coney said it best. We need to grow up from that. We have a true problem because we have a true reactionary problem in the community that we just react to these cases as they happen, try to shy an eye to them, and then move on with our lives. Now, because of all these cases happening or coming out at once because of a Me Too movement, it's evident that we can't do that anymore. It's not okay. We need to do more. And I think one of those things should be to just report these cases to the proper authorities when they do happen. Like I said, that's reactionary. It's not so much of a preventative measure. The preventative measures are maybe just like, cutting these after parties, banning alcohol at tournaments, separating the divisions between majors and minors. And my personal favorite, I think what we should do is have chaperones for minors at tournaments. I really think that's a big one. I really, truly think that is an absolutely huge one right there because a lot of the times, parents don't let their kids, unless they're irresponsible parents, they don't let their kids just go anywhere. Why should Smash tournaments be any different? Evidently, they should be taken more seriously because seemingly they're just, magnets for predators. It's a hard issue to solve, guys. It's not an easy one. We need to have these conversations. But we're gonna get to the bottom of it. I'm telling you, if you think what's happening with Smash right now is a bad thing, you gotta look at yourself, man. You gotta look at yourself and, really think about what you truly value. Do you care more about victims and their horrible stories of abuse and them getting to have that fair, same, equal treatment in the Smash community that you've had? Because they fell in love with the game the same way that you did? Or do you care more that your favorite player has been banned from the scene? My favorite player got banned from the scene. I was sick to my stomach when I heard that news. It was very sad. I cried, dude. I fucking cried. Like, my father hugged me and everything, and I had to let it out. But I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't deserve it. I'm not going to sit here and say, I wish he was back. It's more important shit. Got to think of other people besides yourself. If you really think what's happening now is a bad thing because your favorite players are gone, you're a selfish person. And you need to reform yourself. We all need to reform ourselves. We all need to be better. Me is like sort of a face in my local scene. Not even really. I'm just a commentator, but I've grown to be a known commentator. I feel like I want to do more. And that is why initially when I saw the Nairo news, I wanted to retire from Smash commentary, but I love to do it. So I don't know. I feel like what I want to do right now is I want to tell everybody that I will not be commentating Smash Brothers events until I see actual change in the community. Which I believe we can do. Because I don't know if I'm just comfortable doing that yet. I'm not comfortable making Smash content yet. I'm sure if you're a follower of mine, I've been talking about Smash Excellence a lot. The first episode of it is done. But I don't know if I want to post it. I don't know if I'm ready to get back to that yet. Some content creators are doing it already. I don't know if I'm there yet. We're going to get to that place, but I really... The reason I'm hesitant on commentating events right now, and the reason I'm hesitant on making content is because I just feel our efforts should be somewhere else right now. I feel like what's happening now, because the stories are sort of slowing down, that people, like anything else, are treating it like a trend. They're just treating it like a trend. This was our entertainment for the week. Like the Smash community, up in flames. Oh my holy God. Incinerate. Snap that shit like Bioshock. No. No, these are people's stories. And a lot of these people have not been banned yet. And that kind of concerns me. It makes me think that we're not going to be able to get that structure in the community that we need. And especially now, we're going to get set back a while. And we're going to lose a lot of our sponsors. Nintendo is sure as hell not going to want to stay involved with us at all. Majors are going to be harder to run. Especially considering the fact that a lot of tournament organizers are already deeply in the red. Because, they just haven't been able to put on their majors because of the pandemic anyway. Which I feel like the pandemic is part of the reason why these stories came to light. It's really changing society as we know it. But, yeah. That's, I just don't want it to be treated like a trend. So that's why we got to have these conversations. We can make the scene better. I just want to see proof of that first. Proof is in the pudding, boys. And girls. To conclude my thoughts here, these last few months have been hell for me. Been hell for everybody, I know, but, like, for me specifically, trying to get over a really hard breakup with the woman who you thought for so long was your soulmate during a fucking quarantine is an emotional, mental, and existential torment that I would not wish upon my worst enemy. Quarantine forces you to do literally the exact opposite of everything you're supposed to do to heal from a breakup. From being stuck inside, to not being able to see your friends, to do other healing processes, rebounding, whatever. That being said, it is nothing. Nothing compared to the agony the victims of all of these monsters and predators in the community and all the countless other names have put fucking minors, through. I am nothing if not an objective thinker with common sense when it comes to these things, or where I like to think of myself as, I don't know. I'm sure everybody has their biases in one ways or another for some certain things, but I like to think of myself as an objective thinker with common sense to know when there is work to be done. And when people hurting need our help. I want to do everything in my power to help. If somebody is making you uncomfortable at tournaments, let me know. My DMs are open. If I've ever said or done anything to make you as a woman feel uncomfortable, let me know. It's important for us to check ourselves as well. That's a big thing here, a big recurring theme, because, we were talking about banning alcohols and banning these after parties, and I don't know if those are really going to be effective if, we as a culture just don't really change. You know what I mean? And if you're a guy in our scene, let's have conversations about unlearning sexist behaviors and whatnot. Just maybe the subtle things, that we don't even realize that we do. If you're a TO, let's talk about how to clean this up moving forward. I've never been a tournament organizer, like I said before. It's a thankless job, but I'm so proud of the people behind the scenes right now. I'm so proud of the Collision Series team at House and on MHG and all of the wonderful people behind Tri-State who I know will work to make the scene a better place, or do the right things that we have to do to make women and young children feel safer. I'm so proud of my scene. You can go ahead and call me an optimist, but despite everything that's been revealed in these last few days and the last week, really, and what likely will be going on in the coming days and beyond, I truly believe that the Smash community can get to that place if we want it to. It can get to that place that we can make a reality if we really, really want it to. If we're willing to listen to victims and have repercussions for these vile monsters and shit, then we're going in the right direction. Where there's a will, there's a way. And we just got a pretty big fucking will right now. You can say that. I have thought about quitting commentary entirely since these accusations came to light. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I mean, I love commentating. It's opened up gateways for me. It's helped me learn more about myself. It's helped me grow our local scene even more. But if nothing happens and we don't grow and change from this, like if everything that's happened in the last week is just treated like an entertaining trend for all like the young, immature people in the community, or pretty much, not even young, just people in their 30s or 20s or whatever, those immature people as well. I can't see myself wasting my love and talent on a community that just won't tolerate others and downplays their traumatic experiences based on what their gender is. That being said, your boy is broke. If I get those paid commentary gigs, it's probably going to look a little different. But just know I wouldn't be comfortable doing it. I want to see actual change first. And I think we will. I really think we will. But I don't want to just, I don't want to talk about it. We got to do it. I believe we are at a breaking point in the community right now. What we do now matters so much going forward. That's another reason, really, besides the obvious, as to why we all feel, this great collective tension. You know what I mean? This great collective tension at all these players that we thought were good people come out and just turn out not to be. Look, it's one thing when you find out, a friend of yours did something a little shitty, like they stole something or whatever. It's another thing when you find out they traumatized a person that deeply. That's a completely different thing. And I know that collective tension is dying now because there are less stories coming out for the time being. But that doesn't mean that the issue is solved. We can't treat it like a trend. That's the most important thing here. When I was writing some of my notes and writing initial twitlongers that about other things, like, just about, like, like the movements that are happening in the streets right now to, the presidential election and whatnot, which I wound up not releasing because I have a brain and I know that I shouldn't be releasing twitlongers about, petty, or personal shit while people are coming out with their abuse stories. But I digress. I was listening to some beautiful music from Mario Kart when I was writing some of my notes. Before, it was just like immersive or background noise, but now I think to myself, there's probably like a young girl or boy who loves that music for the same reason I do. The same reason I do deep down. And it probably inspired them or touched them in one way or another. Whether it's, creatively or mentally or, just inspired them to break out of their, like sort of shy shell and come to a Smash tournament. And to think that that young person might not be able to share their love for their favorite game with like-minded people who love the game for the same reason that they do. All because some monster who wants to use them, I don't know what else to say. It sucks thinking about that kid. Because that kid was me, or you, or before their mental state would potentially get ruined from abuse. We were all the same person who fell in love with Smash and wanted to join the community at one point. Everybody should have that same opportunity. Young people, from little kids to teenagers to young adults, they find our scene online. They see it as a second home, a place where they can be themselves, a place where they can just fall in love with their favorite game even more. I want everybody to feel as welcome to the scene as I did when I first came by myself to Smash Forever 6 years ago, really, to my first ever tournament. And it kills me to see that bright-eyed young people like I was, that they're never going to get to have that experience. Because instead they were greeted with harassment or rape or assault or just grooming, every horrible thing you can think of. Literal children, man. Pape's fucking twitlonger made me feel like I was going to barf, dude. And then seeing that footage of Senpai, ugh. Look, every person deserves to have the same scene that you had. That I had. The one it's supposed to be. It's like it's on us, really, to make that family a reality for the new blood. If we don't make it happen, nobody else is gonna. The Smash scene, I know it can be, if we just want it enough. We all want kindness, deep down. We all have these feelings of, happiness in our souls, our spirits and our guts. For some it's creative, some imaginative, some scientific. And one thing we all have in common is that we all got that same trickly feeling in our gut when it came to Smash. At least one point in our lives or another. People come and go from the scene, but we all fell in love with the game the same way that you did, or that I did, and the same way that a lot of these victims did. That's why, despite everything, we're all still here. And, we're all still here in what we call the Smash community, really. We all fell in love with the game at one point, and we all owe something to it, in our lives, because it changed us all for our own individual reasons. I had the longest and most meaningful relationship of my life because of Smash. I was able to grow to become one of my region's most notable commentators, despite DM Brandon 5 years ago telling me that I was never going to amount to shit, and that all I would ever do was ruin streams, and even though he never even really watched that VOD. Which, considering where he's at now, good shit. Just good shit, DM Brandon. Good shit, buddy. Even with my own current negative connotations about Smash that I have from time to time, because I complain about the game a lot. I'm North Jersey, that's our culture. We all saw it as something hopeful at one point. I think it's important to remember what we once all saw Smash as when dealing with these issues, you know what I mean? And to think about what new players go into the community seeing it as, to ensure what we want it to be for the future. That is why we have to fix it. I don't want anyone's memory of Smash, and I don't want the image of Smash to be one of hatred, bigotry, and sexual assault and abuse. I want their hopes in joining a brand new community to be fulfilled, like mine were. They deserve to have it be for them. You know what this is what I'm trying to get at here, and this is why, I'm rambling about these issues so much, and I'm pretty much done here, I swear. Thank you so much for sticking through with me to this video to the end, but I just needed to express how I was feeling. They deserve to have it be that way for them, and so many of them were for us. So to all my fellow men in the community, This is what I want you to think about when these women say, and these, not just these women, when these young people, and also these men get sexually harassed too. Though those cases happen, and a lot of the times they're not treated as seriously. That's a huge one right there. That's another big issue. But for all my fellow men in the community, this is what I want you to think about when these victims say we need change. They're not saying it for clout. Nobody wants that kind of negative attention. Why would they do that? This is what I want you to think about when they say we need change. What Smash was for you. That's what I want you to think about. And how you should want everybody else to have that same feeling you did when you joined. So for us, and the new kids, the old heads, and all the tired and abused victims, let's get to work. I hope you enjoyed this take on, I hope you enjoyed my take on these issues. I know this was a very, very long video. I'll try to trim it down as best as I can. But there was just so much I wanted to say and really get out here that I think needs to really be said. My DMs are open on Twitter if you want to have these conversations about how to change the scene, or if you want to critique my commentary. Nobody ever does that. I always open them to do that, and then no one ever does. It makes me a sad boy. But yeah. All these links to various videos and articles are in the description down below. The Kotaku article, the Wired article, Koni's video, Omni's video, whatnot. All that good stuff is going to be down in the description below. So be sure to check those out if you're trying to educate yourself further on those issues, because those stem from people who have been in the Smash community even longer than I have, and they also stem from victims, which I am not. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I know it was a serious video today, but stuff that had to be said. Thank you so much for sticking through with me to the end. I hope you have a wonderful night. Goodbye.